Somewhere between 15 and 20% of people in the Western world feel lonely most of the time. Not occasionally, not in moments that pass, most of the time. And almost none of them talk about it, because there is something about loneliness that feels like a confession, like an admission that you have failed at something everyone else is quietly managing. That shame is wrong, and it is new, and it is built on a misunderstanding of what loneliness actually is. Loneliness is not a feeling, it is a fire alarm, one of the oldest and most urgent signals in the human nervous system, designed to do a single thing: hurt enough that you would return to your group before the group stopped looking for you. In 300,000 years of human evolution, the alarm was always brief. You got separated, the alarm fired, you returned, it switched off. The whole cycle took hours, sometimes less. It was never designed to run for months, for years, for a whole life. Here is what the alarm was actually built for. For most of human evolutionary history, separation from the group was one of the most dangerous things that could happen to a person. No shelter alone, no fire alone, no protection from predators alone, no one to help if you were injured, sick, or lost. Isolation was not uncomfortable. It was a death sentence. So the brain built a system to prevent it. A signal so urgent, so physically unpleasant, that it would override almost any other priority and drive the isolated person back toward the group before the damage became irreversible. That signal had to be painful. That was the point. A gentle suggestion would not have been enough. The pain of loneliness is not a malfunction. It is a design feature. It is the alarm doing exactly what it was built to do, creating sufficient discomfort to motivate action. The problem is that the action it was built to motivate no longer works. Neuroscientist John Cacioppo at the University of Chicago spent decades studying loneliness, more rigorously, more extensively than almost anyone before him. What his research established is now one of the most cited findings in social neuroscience. Loneliness activates the same threat response systems as physical pain, the same neural pathways, the same physiological cascade, the same stress hormones, the same elevated cortisol, the same disruption to sleep and immune function. The brain treats social isolation as a physical emergency, because for 300,000 years it was. Now here is where the modern problem becomes precise. The alarm has two components, and we have only addressed one of them. The first component is social connection, the feeling of being understood, valued, and part of something. This is what most people mean when they talk about loneliness. And it is what most modern solutions attempt to address. More plans, more messages, more time with people, more effort to maintain relationships. The second component is physical co-presence, the ambient biological signal that another body is nearby, warm, breathing, real. This component cannot be satisfied digitally at all. You can text someone you love for 2 hours and hang up and still feel the alarm running, not because the conversation wasn't meaningful, because one of the two systems never received what it needed. We built our entire solution to loneliness around the first system. We forgot the second one existed. For 300,000 years, ancient humans were in near constant physical proximity to the people around them. Not occasional proximity, constant. They slept pressed together for warmth. They groomed each other, not as a hygiene practice, but as a primary social bonding mechanism, the same way every other primate species does, the same way our closest relatives still do. They moved together, worked together, ate together, sat together in the way that people sit when there is no concept of personal space, because personal space was never safe. The nervous system was calibrated to this. It expected this input every day, not weekly, not when schedules aligned. Every day. Neuroscientist Stephen Porges at the University of North Carolina developed what he called polyvagal theory, a framework for understanding how the human nervous system regulates itself. One of his central findings is that human nervous systems are not designed to self-regulate in isolation. They are designed to borrow regulation from each other. The sound of a calm voice, the rhythm of another person breathing nearby, the warmth of physical proximity. These inputs continuously calibrate the nervous system toward safety, toward the parasympathetic state where the body can rest, repair, and function properly. Without these inputs, the nervous system defaults toward threat detection, toward vigilance, toward the low-grade alertness of a body that is not receiving the signals that tell it the world is safe. This is not loneliness in the emotional sense. This is a nervous system running without its fuel. In 2015, Julianne Holt-Lunstad at Brigham Young University published a meta-analysis that looked at 148 studies covering 308,000 participants. The question, what is the relationship between social connection and mortality? The findings were stark enough that they were reported internationally. Loneliness is associated with a 26% increase in the risk of premature death. Social isolation with a 29% increase. Living alone with a 32% increase. Each of these figures is larger than the mortality risk associated with obesity, larger than the risk associated with physical inactivity. Cacioppo's research identified something else that makes modern loneliness self-perpetuating. The alarm, when it runs for too long, begins to change the brain. Chronic loneliness produces hypervigilance to social threat. The brain, running its threat detection systems continuously, begins to interpret ambiguous social signals as hostile. A neutral expression becomes a rejection. A slow reply becomes confirmation of something feared. A crowded room becomes evidence of exclusion rather than opportunity for connection. The alarm designed to drive you toward the group begins to make the group feel dangerous. This is not a personality trait. It is what happens to a threat detection system that has been running continuously for too long. The answer is not to become more self-sufficient or more independent or more comfortable with your own company. These are reasonable things to cultivate, but they do not switch off the alarm, because the alarm was not built to be switched off by self-sufficiency. It was built to be switched off by the group, by proximity, that is real, by contact, that is genuine, by the specific biological experience of another nervous system in genuine contact with yours, calm, present, safe, by being actually seen by some, by being actually seen by someone who is actually there. You are not bad at being human. You are not broken. You are running an ancient alarm in a world that removed everything the alarm was built to find and told you the difficulty was your fault. It isn't. The thing that turns it off has never changed. Someone real, actually there, and the alarm, finally, switches off.